This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. It does not get worse than that. Maybe it does.
A little bit.
If it does, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see anything worse than that as long as I live on Earth. Welcome to the show. The World Series is over, which we knew when the Yankees went down 3-0, or probably when they went down 1-0, and likely when they went down 2-0. The Yankees were kind of not competing for a title last night in Game 5. But also, you're never dead till you're dead, and they won Game 4, and they staved off a sweep, and no team in the history of baseball has ever forced Game 6 of the World Series after going down 3-0. So, that would have been history if they would have done that, and it felt impossible. But then they were up 5-0, well, 3-0, and then 4-0, and then 5-0, and Garrett Cole's on the mound, and it actually doesn't feel that impossible at all. It feels not just possible, but likely. 5-0 in the fifth inning, no hitter being thrown by your ace. 44-1 the Yankees are when they give Cole 4 runs of support. They gave him 5. That's not this year, obviously. That's throughout his Yankee career. I mean, things were trending very nicely. Kike Hernandez leads off the fifth inning with a single. It's a bummer, but you can shake that off. That's the worst inning ever played by a team in a World Series. And it's right up there with the end of Game 6 of the 86 World Series between the Red Sox and Mets. And it's below that on the meaningful scale because obviously the title was at stake there. The Red Sox were trying to save a game and win a World Series. The Yankees were trying to get the World Series back to Los Angeles, California, where they would probably lose unless they won 2 more in a row. So, different stakes. But in terms of pure incompetence, that's as bad as it gets. That's as bad as Major League Baseball can get from everyone. From Anthony Rizzo, from Anthony Volpe, especially from Aaron Judge, and honestly, especially from Garrett Cole, who didn't cover first, pointed to Rizzo as if to too late tell him to go to first, blame him, I'm not sure, but then had a 1-2 pitch to Freddie Freeman, didn't execute, 2-run single, 2-strike pitch to Teoscar Hernandez, didn't execute, game-tying 2-run double. Cole was a dog in the 6th and 7th. Cole also gave away the entire lead with poor play. So, we're going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about the rest of the game. We're going to talk about free agency and Juan Soto and what's next. We're going to thank everyone for listening, 2 o'clock Eastern every Monday, Thursday, as well as on podcast platforms in the aftermath. But the bottom line is, other than there were 2 or 3 Yankee fans who did deserve to see that collapse. The Mookie Betts guys and whoever yelled Freddie Freeman sucks during the stand up to cancer moment. Those Yankee fans deserve to see that shit. But the Mookie Betts guys weren't in the building. And 40,000 plus great Yankee fans last night who were at the game did not deserve to watch that. And Dodger fans who've been waiting since 1988 for a parade, a celebration, what have you. They win the title in the COVID year. They can't really celebrate. And Justin Turner has COVID during the World Series. That's a title. Your title drought is 4 years, by the way. Not a real drought. But celebration with your family is different. All that stuff. The Dodger fans who rooted for an incredible team all year, and I don't want to hear anything about how easy it was for them just because they spent money on people. They had to over and over again because they faced adversity. It's not the same adversity as small market teams, but pitching staff was decimated. Pitching staff was even decimated in Game 5. Credit to the Dodgers. They deserve to win that World Series at home, and the Yankee fans who were there last night did not deserve to watch that shit. And Aaron Boone's option being picked up 6 minutes after the game ended yesterday while New York played in the stands was the most emblematic possible Yankees failure, beacon, what have you. I mean, Thomas Carannante, thank you for joining. Worst game ever. And again, worst outcome. I'm sure Dodger fans were relieved they didn't have to go back home, but they deserve a celebration for their home crowd. The Yankees deserve to extend that series, at least take some form of pride into the offseason, especially after Game 4. And then they undid it all. And then an awkward celebration with the Yankees theme song ensued in front of a bunch of people who were just abjectly miserable for the 15th time in 15 years. But probably worse than it's ever been. Worse than the Altuve homer. Worse than the Lance McCullers curveball in 2017. That's the worst. That's as bad as it gets. That's as bad as it gets for any team.
Yeah, well, I mean, what is it? It's the Yankees just getting one rung higher and failing even more spectacularly, which, again, is a reflection of leadership. It's a reflection of roster building. It's a reflection of organizational philosophy over the last 15 years. Like, again, not going to discredit the Yankees making a run to the World Series, but they had the best team. They had all the resources at their disposal. They had everything fall into place the way that they needed it to. And then how did they lose? They lost because they don't have an effective manager. And I don't think there's really any reason to talk more about that. They're not disciplined. And I don't know if that's a full-on reflection of Aaron Boone, because we've talked about this ad nauseum. At the end of the day, the players need to execute. It is not Aaron Boone's fault that the Yankees made 3 errors in 1 inning.
I can't tell, like, too many people are defaulting to just being like, this team is so sloppy under Aaron Boone. I know, but also Aaron Judge dropping a fly ball in center field, you're ascribing that to Aaron Boone. You're looking for trouble.
Yeah.
You're an asshole.
And again, Aaron Judge is the captain of this team. So, like, maybe there's a bit of an issue there. I don't know. Again, not in the clubhouse. Don't know what's going on. Anthony Rizzo calls this team meeting after they go down 3-0 or 2-0 or whatever it was. And it was just like, why is that even making news? Why is it not Aaron Judge? But you look at the defensive miscues, just the fact that the entire team was completely befuddled at the end of that one. Whereas the fans were like, yeah, no, that's what we've been talking about for 5 years now. Waiting, because you knew, just like we knew in LA, the moment Garrett Cole was taken out of the game, that game was over.
Yeah.
Just like how we knew when Aaron Judge dropped that fly ball, this game was not going to end the way that we wanted it to. Maybe still the Yankees had a chance to win, but you knew it still was going to be too close for comfort in a game that they completely controlled. You couldn't have gotten a better start. They chased the Dodgers starter. They forced Dave Roberts to burn the bullpen after a bullpen game the night before, and you knew that he was going to have to use some high leverage arms because there was no way to avoid passing up on some of the pitchers that he had available to him. So the fact that they gave this away in just they found a brand new way to collapse and a brand new way to choke. Again, I don't know if everybody's fully aware. It is the 6th time in MLB history a team has surrendered a 5-run or larger lead in a World Series game. And it is the first time in baseball history that a team has surrendered a 5-run lead in a World Series elimination game. So the Yankees have done this time and time again. They have kept the door open for their opponents by not playing tight, not making the right decisions, sticking to processes that clearly don't work, sticking to stale approaches, whatever you want to call it. And they continually melt down when one thing goes wrong. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and really blame Garrett Cole for last night. There were 2 errors made before. He should have been out of that inning. I think there is no disagreeing with that. But the way Garrett Cole has historically pitched is when one thing goes wrong, he cannot handle it, and the hits start coming, and the mistakes continue to compound, and then his starts look worse and worse. So you look at him getting both striking out Gavin Lux and Shohei Ohtani. I thought that was perhaps the turning point for the Yankees to seize the momentum back.
Incredible.
But then, absolutely incredible. Electrifying when he struck out Ohtani. I was like, holy shit, this is it. Yep. And then, you get Freddie Freeman and Teoscar Hernandez into 1-2 counts. I'm not going to blame him for the Freeman pitch because, I don't know how much more you can jam him without breaking his fingers on that. That was just a great piece of hitting, and he's otherworldly right now, so there's no really arguing against that. But that 1-2 cutter to Teoscar, like, that's a fucking mistake. And then the not covering first base. I know there's also an argument to be had that Rizzo shouldn't have let that ball come to him as he waited and drifted further away from first base. Then again, That's the problem with this team. No communication, no feel. Aaron Boone talked so much about how close-knit this team was after the game and why the media was delayed in getting into the clubhouse because there were a lot of emotional moments being shared and a lot of people speaking and reflecting on everything that had happened. And it's like, but none of this translates on the field. Like I wouldn't be able to tell that these guys are friends or super connected because the communication's constantly off. The vibes are constantly off. The manner in which that they let things continue to spiral doesn't suggest that the bonds are as strong as Aaron Boone is suggesting. And again, this is me from watching afar, so I don't know as much as Aaron Boone does. And I do think that there's validity in terms of these guys having a really defining year in terms of their relationships and how far they were able to come and what they were able to accomplish. But like, you can't sell me on the stuff. You can't sell me on, not believing what I've seen all year. It's the same mistakes. It's the same meltdowns. It's the same, like, again, lack of the Yankees had no idea why they lost this World Series, in my opinion, based on like everybody being like shell shocked at the end of this. And there is that means that they are so lost in the process and they are not self-aware of what has been going on, because again, a very good team, a team that deserved to make a run, again, best team in the American League. You're not going to take that away from them.
Yeah.
But also when you go up against the best team in the other league, there are no room for errors, and the Yankees do make those all the time. They are not disciplined, and that could come back to Aaron Boone with, the fact that some of these guys have gotten longer leashes than they deserve. Like Alex Verdugo striking out to end the World Series is emblematic of it all as well. Like a guy who was worse than Joey Gallo still continued to get run, and the Yankees did nothing about it. Verdugo, again, a Judge friend. Aaron Judge likes Alex Verdugo and Anthony Rizzo, and that's why those guys are here ostensibly. And those two guys cost us, moments in this playoff run that we're never going to get back. So
those three guys.
Yeah, those three guys. So, I mean, look, it is depressing and sad. I'm not really shocked. I am upset, obviously, just because it's like, because they suck you back in with that start yesterday, and it's like, okay, I don't think they can necessarily win this World Series, but they're fighting back, and this won't be remembered as a complete disgrace, which is kind of cool.
The longer you go, the more impressive it is. Dodger fans have to sit on this for 3 days. Like, that's something. That's valuable. You can go into next season being like, we were down 3-0, got kicked in game 1, didn't let it get us, didn't let it eliminate us. You're not going to eliminate us until we're dead, like cockroaches. But then they just, again, let the Dodgers run all over them. They found the only way to profoundly disappoint me after game 4. There was pretty much nothing else they could do. And they did it. And they took a lead after blowing the lead in the 5th, which is maybe, I honestly can't tell if it's impressive or sad. Because, like, good job fighting back against the middle of the Dodgers bullpen. And everyone praising Dave Roberts for the way he managed yesterday. I get it. He had to navigate this game with an inning and a third of Jack Flaherty. But he put Michael Kopech in the 4th, and everyone retroactively was like, maybe he had a feeling there was going to be a comeback. And it was like, but no, because there was, and now the Dodgers need 38-pitch Blake Trinan and a starting pitcher to get the last 6 outs of the game with the heart of the order up. So even if he did feel a comeback coming, well, he still doesn't have a fucking pitcher for the 8th and 9th inning here. And it worked out because everything the Dodgers touch apparently turns to gold. I think Yankee fans have high standards, right? You get to the World Series and you see people striking out the runners in scoring position, and you see, bullpen guys clogging the bait. Clay Holmes coming in. I thought he looked awful today, but he did get the outs. He didn't give up any runs. So I leave that game being like, Clay Holmes was bad, but the numbers say Clay Holmes was good. I understand that we have high standards when we get to this point in the season, but Grant Brisbee with The Athletic summed it all up. Yankee fans, if you felt like the Yankees performed better than it's easy to slip into, well, the Dodgers are, just the better team. They're an amazing team. What are you going to do? Freddie Freeman homers every time he comes up. Not really. As Grant noted, the Dodgers batting average in the World Series was 206. Yankees 212. Dodgers OBP was 296. Yankees was 332. Slugging, Dodgers 406. Yankees 412. Dodgers ERA 480. Yankees 383. Yankees more hits, more homers, more stolen bases, more walks, far fewer base runners allowed. The Yankees were the better team in pretty much every aspect except for being a good team.
Yeah. And that was,
if they're able to execute, I mean, look, you don't even have to bend your brain around to find 3 wins out of the first 5. They should be heading to LA up 3-2 right now. But obviously that's if you're playing a normal series, and no World Series is normal and the playoffs are weird and things get wonked. I get it. But the most painful part for me, and also you can make an argument they should have won game 2, bases loaded, 1 out, trying and losing it against Anthony Volpe, who came home and was kind of a superhuman. You can make the argument the Yankees should have been trying to clinch in 5 yesterday. But for me, for my money, you hit on it perfectly when you said the Ohtani moment, the exhale, the strikeout. We're all thinking he can get out of this, maybe. That's what it was in all of these devastating losses, and what was so crazy. And I was up all night last night because who wasn't? Am I wearing a Yankee hat now because I'm repping, or am I wearing a Yankee hat because I slept in the street last night? Who can say? But I'm adding the Knicks loss, the Tyrese Maxey game where he just drilled 2 threes with 5 seconds left, to the Mount Rushmore of 2024 sports losses. Game 3 of the ALCS, game 1 of the World Series, last night's game 5. All historic Yankees losses. And what do they have in common? Sloppy play, poor pitching. Yeah. But notably, all 3 of them felt in doubt until the exact moment before the hammer dropped and we let our guards down. Before the Lane Thomas double and the Noel home run. Luke Weaver turned 2 with Josh Naylor at the plate himself. Grounder back to the mound, double play. You didn't let yourself believe because you've got, it's a 2-run game. You've got Ramirez at first for Josh Naylor. You didn't let yourself believe until you made that double play, and then you're like, oh my God, we're actually going to win this game. No, you're not. Game 1, first and second, 1 out for Shohei Ohtani. I don't believe that's a win. I don't believe that game's. I spent 3.5 hours watching that game. I don't think they're going to win until Ohtani pops up to Verdugo, and then I'm like, oh my God. Nestor worked? No. Freddie Freeman grand slam. It didn't work. You're not going to win. And then last night, I believe slightly different because I believed, obviously, when they were up 5-0 and Cole's on the mound cruising. But as soon as Judge drops that ball, followed by the Volpe error, you're like, this is really bad. It's either going to be 5-4 or going to be tied at the end of this inning. Like, this is going to go extremely wrong. They're either going to have to fight to the end of this, or it'll all be erased in this inning. But then Lux K, Ohtani K, and that's the moment you believe again. You're like, well, Mookie Betts is obviously Mookie Betts, but at the same time, they just got through this. And no, they didn't. So not only have the Yankees lost in the last 2 weeks of real time, 3 of their most devastating playoff losses, not just in the Boone era, but in franchise history. I would put all 3 in the top 10.
Absolutely.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, so no,
I don't really want to do a top 10, but I think all 3 belong in the top 10, just most gutting playoff losses of all time. And because they're all even worse, because the moment directly before tragedy struck was really the only moment of acceptance of victory in any of these games.
Yeah. And look, for me, this series was over after game 1. If you ever put that's another issue with the Yankees, right? They have an opportunity to step on your throat and they don't do it. So Aaron Boone removing Garrett Cole at the first sign of danger after a single in the 6th inning, his best pitcher is at 88 pitches, and you're only throwing him twice in this series, and you're going to leave 20 pitches on the table. It just, you knew at that point, just like you knew last night when Aaron Judge dropped that fly ball, you knew bad stuff was going to happen. And then what's the domino effect after taking Cole out? You burn the bullpen, and then you put pressure on Carlos Rodon to rebound in game 2, who is bad at doing that in general, just bad on seizing the moment. Like, it's unfortunate for him because I think we all expected more. And again, he's got 4 years left in this contract. I don't know what it's going to look like, but it couldn't have been a worse start to it. You're throwing him on the road, which is, again, a decision that we questioned. He's not good on the road. You're pitching him after that collapse in game 1. It's not going to end well. It doesn't end well. You watch it happen. You say, oh yeah, this is exactly what I knew was going to happen. And then you save your 2 home games for Clark Schmidt and Luis Heel, and both of those guys have better road splits. And again, I understand that you can't throw, for example, Clark Schmidt and Luis Heel games 1 and 2 in LA, but you could have maybe mixed it up before. And when you knew you were burning the bullpen in game 1, you probably should have mixed it up and made a late decision to change that, because that was your fault at that point. And then, should Boone have been in that position? Another argument to be had. No, the Yankees probably should have got more hits in that game 1. I think they went 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position or something, just like they did last night. Yeah. They still scored 6 runs last night. They went 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. That's how reliant they were on the home run ball. And again, this team's philosophy is not to do that. This team is predicated on drawing walks, which is not a baseball strategy. That's simply just taking their biggest wins in the postseason were when the opposing pitchers completely lost their shit in the DS and the CS. And that's how they were able to triumph in those and make the previous performances look, or it made those previous performances feel a lot, less significant, because it was like, oh, okay, someone let us off the hook. That feel okay. Time to run with the momentum now. Like we have it. Never really did. So you have an offense that is, and you could tell too that they're fully reliant on walks, because every borderline strike call, everyone's a child about it. Anthony Volpe looks at the ump every time. Jazz Chisholm took 15 seconds out of the batter's box last night on a 3-0 pitch that hit the corner.
And what was with his eyes all playoff long? He kept taking timeouts to rub his eyeballs for just 15, 20 seconds. Like,
I have no idea.
Is that a time-wasting strategy? Like, I know we don't have, we got a pitch clock, but we don't have an eye injury clock, so I'm just going to rub my eyeballs. You're right. There's like, they even said it last night. The announcers were like, Jazz Chisholm, reignites his battle with the home plate umpire here. Yeah. He was doing some Soto shuffling. Which will be nice next year when we don't have the real one Soto. Soto shuffle.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, this all came down to the problems that everybody's been talking about. They don't play tight baseball. They lack fundamentals. They lack situational hitting. They shell up in the big moment. And of course, they're going to come through in some big moments. Like, that's part of the game. It's going to happen by accident sometimes. And other times, Giancarlo Stanton, who, by the way, everybody, Giancarlo Stanton is now immune to all future criticism. I'll say that now. I'll stamp it. Yep. The man's a postseason legend. He's gotten us as far as he could possibly go. And I know maybe the conversation might be a little bit different if the shoe was on the other foot with Aaron Judge, because Aaron Judge is the captain and the team should go as he goes. But Giancarlo Stanton has played the main actor in the last 4 postseasons for this team, and everybody else goes away. And it's on him. He pops out in that situation in last night's game, and I'm not mad. Go for the first pitch, dude. Like, what are you going to do? But so you don't play tight baseball. You don't have situational hitting at all. You squander opportunity after opportunity, and you leave the door open for an opponent, as you just listed, was not as good statistically. And yeah, that's not how every game goes. We know that. But when you're playing the better team, the Dodgers were the better team by default. Teoscar Hernandez said it in the postgame. They said, what were you thinking in that 5th inning? He goes, what we were thinking is we have to capitalize on all of these mistakes right now. And what they do, they capitalize on every single mistake.
Very underrated that all of the big guns were up after all of the mistakes too. Like, that could have worked out worse. It's Edman and it's Will Smith that you're dropping balls on. It's not the big guns. You might turn out differently if Muncy ends up at the plate with the bases loaded. This is the worst day of the year. It's the worst day in several years. It's the day when everyone who is your friend and wants to be nice reaches out like, man, what happened to the Yankees last night? Thank God we don't have to go into an office anymore, but people mean well. I mean this genuinely, just like, it's very hard to process how painful this was. And thank you if you've reached out. Sounds absurd. I'm not on the Yankees. I don't know these people, but it's also like really difficult to talk about, and I might not, be that welcoming. I'm going to try, but if we haven't talked in a while and you're like, damn, tough game for the Yankees, I'm going to automatically sort of assume that you're trolling, unless you're not. But we've got like,
You'd have to know nothing about baseball for that to be your response.
Yeah, wow, tough L.
It's like my mom texting me when the Yankees go down 3-0. What the F Yankees?
Yeah. Meanwhile, I've just got like anime energy going through my blood. Like I'm turning blue and my hair fell off. But I mean, yeah, we've got like fans of other franchises that didn't make the playoffs chirping us on Twitter. Like you got to at least make the playoffs. Like Met fans, I'll hear it from you, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine.
Even though you famously did not make the World Series, it just happened like a week ago. But Red Sox and Blue Jays fans, like you guys just have to be the center of the universe at all times. You can watch. Here's the rule for me. You can watch the Yankees collapse and delight in it and like text your friends, but if you're tweeting about it, like, I mean, you're just opening yourself up. Like the Dodgers did a video, like a pre-World Series, like a Fox broadcast. I saw the Dodger fans tweeting about where they were like wearing clown masks. They were like wearing luchador masks, and the Dodger commenter was like, bold to wear clown masks based on the potential repercussions if you lose the World Series. And that's how I feel watching fans of the Toronto Blue Jays tweet about how good they feel that the Yankees lost the World Series. I mean, that's all you got. Like 30 years, that's all you got. A team in my division doesn't win the World Series. I mean, I wouldn't be bragging about that. In the same way that Dodger fans, I wouldn't be high horsing these Mookie Betts guys. It's been 3 weeks since we saw you throw cans and baseballs and garbage at the San Diego Padres and at Jurickson Profar. Like, what? Calling the Mookie Betts hand-grabbing guys bad apples feels like minimizing it, and so yeah. I'm not going to go to that level and just be like, what? So what? Some guys were having locker room talk, playing around. Like, no, that really sucked, and it may have started a curse here, frankly, because guess who hit the ground ball where everybody's brain fell through their ears? Mookie Betts. Guess who hit the sac fly to win the game? Mookie Betts. Hopefully it's a 1-year curse and not the one that's cursed Boston for the last 4 years. Because remember the Red Sox fucking traded him? Remember that? Red Sox fans, as you're bragging about the Yankees losing the World Series, they lost it to a guy who you just decided you didn't want anymore. But Dodger fans throwing stones in glass houses, like as if they didn't just somehow get the karmic advantage after being just abhorrent fans in the stands in Game 2 of the division series against the Padres. Like, people are now arguing the Yankees lost this series because of the karma associated with two absolute losers who were replaced at Game 5 by a pediatric cancer patient, by the way. Good job by the Yankees. Yeah, fun to talk about curses, and I get it, and Betts certainly delivered on his end of the bargain, but the Dodgers weren't cursed by their fans' hubris somehow. Executing on the field removes all talk of curses. The Dodgers did. They came back from 2-1 in the DS on the road. Congrats to them. They should have been doomed by that logic, by their own fans' behavior. They weren't. The Yankees lost, so therefore they're doomed by the Mookie Betts wrist grabbers, who should be banned for life. I never want to see them again. I definitely don't want to see them on rival podcasts. Yeah, Barstool, talking to you. Like, Yankee fans stepping up and embracing the Mookie Betts guys was one of the worst parts of that whole thing to me.
That's going to happen. ESPN doing it was fucking bizarre.
That's true.
Of course fans are going to do it. They're going to come to defense of their own fans, and, like, we can sit here and talk about it all day, right? What they did, absolutely fucking unacceptable. Goodbye. Banned for life. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to be the arbiter of punishment. Banned for the game and banned for the rest of the World Series, sure. Also, is it the worst thing anybody's ever seen? Absolutely not. No, it was bad and it was dumb. Thankfully, no one got hurt. We can laugh about it for a second.
The reaction reminded me of when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock and Judd Apatow tweeted he could have killed him. Like, yeah, no, he probably could have killed him.
And look, that's modern day society at this point. Like, everyone's gonna be at odds, trying to figure it out. Like, why is anybody concerned on social media during before Game 5 of the World Series, what these two guys are going to be doing? Is there going to be another perfectly placed foul ball for them to grab Mookie Betts and lift him into the stands and beat him up? Like, that was a once in a lifetime opportunity, the way that all unfolded. Never going to happen again. Also, what does it matter to you? I'm glad that they were gone.
They hate the Yankees because they hate the Yankees.
Exactly.
And they have preconceived notions about what the Yankees stand for, and they ignore that there are real humans who grew up loving the Yankees just like you grew up loving your team. And Anthony Volpe talking in the Game 4 postgame about how his grandfather came back from war and reconnected with a father he never knew, listening to the Yankee games on the radio. Those people are out there, and it's really nice when some of them play for the Yankees. But those people are out there. Also, some people who are out there are guys who Rob Gronkowski knows from college who are going to grab Mookie Betts' fucking hand off. Those people are out there as well. So are the Dodger fans who threw baseballs at jerks in Profar. So are the Red Sox fans who prevented Torrey Hunter from signing in Boston because they inundated him with racial slurs, and who threw peanuts at Adam Jones, right? Or was it what did they throw at Adam Jones?
Was that banana peel? No,
I thought it was a banana peel, but I didn't want to.
CC said it. Like there was enough black players who came out and said that they were subject to X, Y, and Z in Boston.
And again, that's a little more systemic than Yankee fans grabbing Mookie Betts.
Yeah, or Yankee fans being drunk and and looking like morons. That's the main criticism of Yankee fans.
Yeah, but Boston fans have obviously faced no repercussions. No, never mind. I'm not going to say that. I almost did something that I always do, where I had a joke that was very offensive that I almost tweeted last week, but instead texted to a bunch of friends, and then was just now like, I should say it on the podcast. I'm not going to say it on the podcast. But there is a history of systemic racism in Boston. Dodger fans, the incident in the parking lot with the Giants fan who suffered brain damage because he was beaten after a rivalry game. They're horrible fans. And I'm not comparing apples to oranges and saying, these fans are worse than these fans.
No.
A lot of high horses being ridden, especially in discussing this supposed curse. But these guys were garbage, and they needed to get kicked out of the game. And they set an awful tone because all of a sudden you got Yankee fans talking about these guys like they're a rallying cry. And I get it, but it's no great shock that when the game blows up in your face the way it did, that people are going to come back at you and spit the opposite in your face, because you invited that there by being like, these are our grimaces, this guy, Gronk's boy or whatever. I get it, but we're not focused on the real issue, which is that Fat Joe cursed the Yankees, not Mookie Betts.
Yeah, the moral of the story is that fandom in every form is toxic. Doesn't matter who you're rooting for, doesn't matter what sport it is. There is a small sect of every fan base that does bad things. And yeah, the behavior is absolutely not condoned, but there's generally no fan base that's worse than another in terms of infractions. Like there's no overarching docile fan base out there. If you're a fan at a World Series game or a Super Bowl or something like that, or a hotly contested NFL playoff game, there's going to be a group of people doing exactly what you would never want to see in your life. So that's it. That's all we're trying to say. Not minimizing any of it. It's just like, let's have a larger conversation about what the actual problems are instead of zoning in on people you don't like because you're 5 years old. The collapse, a pretty big one. We could do this quickly. Because again, it's not fun to blame people, but blame does need to go around. And I think that there's a healthy amount of discussion to be had about what's next for this team. And they already picked up Aaron Boone's option, which is essentially waving the white flag for another underwhelming campaign. And that has nothing to do with Aaron Boone himself. It just has to do with the Yankees continuing to run back something that is not working. And them viewing us finally getting over the hump of not appearing in a World Series is an accomplishment to them, whereas it is a standard for the fan base and the media when you take into account all the missteps that have been made, when you take into account that the team has essentially gotten worse as a whole since 2017 in terms of performance and rising to the occasion. But I think the first person to blame here is Anthony Rizzo. That's like the least amount of blame to be assessed. Like this is where it begins, because the defense throughout the postseason was absolutely unacceptable.
And if he charges that ball yesterday,
and yes, and that too,
the ball, I mean, How many errors did we see him make this postseason on routine-ish plays? Like, I'm sorry, I don't trust his glove to charge that ball. He should have, but I don't trust it. I can't visualize it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I don't know if he's playing compromised with the vision issues or the cognitive impairment that has hurt him. But again, we just watched Oswaldo Cabrera sit on the bench for the entirety of the postseason, and he was both a healthier option than Anthony Rizzo, arguably a better option than Anthony Rizzo. And the manner with how this ended, with essentially, why are the stats not loading on MLB? I had this perfectly set up to read stats, and now they're not giving it to me. Anthony Rizzo is, for some reason, not on this list of postseason performers, but I'll check his baseball reference page. Either way, the offensive output was not. And look, again, he had broken fingers, so is it fully his fault? No. He batted 125 with a 489 OPS in the World Series. Struck out 7 times, walked 4, 0 RBIs, 1 run scored. I mean, you combine that with not good defense, not adequate defense, and it all gets summed up with the play that opened the floodgates, that officially opened all the floodgates on Wednesday night. And it's just, there's no reason for him to be back next year. It's going to happen. He's probably going to come back. We all know that this is likely the reality. And now you look at the parallels with the Yankees passing on Freddie Freeman in 2021. Freddie Freeman wins World Series MVP. Anthony Rizzo is now across the baseball media landscape being questioned for this play, whether it was his fault or not.
Yeah, a complete non-factor, except for in ways that were horrible in this round. Meanwhile, Freddie Freeman was unstoppable. And in retrospect, it's even crazy that Freddie Freeman's home run in Game 4 wasn't the end of the series. You need to keep them off the board in the first. And
these guys, same age, by the way.
Yeah, Luis Gil just goes ahead and gives up a home run to Freddie Freeman anyway. The sloppy fundamentals, how much is Aaron Boone, how much is not. I think it's overblown. I can't believe I'm doing this because I can't defend Aaron Boone after that.
It's hard, man.
The Nestor Cortez move was like the single stupidest move I've seen a manager make in the World Series. And I thought Aaron Boone managed perfectly against the Guardians and Royals. Yeah. Although then again, it's the Guardians and Royals. He can only beat the AL Central in the playoffs. The only non-AL Central team he has beaten in the playoffs were the Oakland A's in a 1-game wild card in 2018. That is it. That is unbelievable. But so I'm not defending Aaron Boone here. And if you asked me with truth serum, hey, do you want to dismiss Aaron Boone at the end of the season or not? I would say yes. Go for it. But I have a hard time blaming Aaron Boone not being hard enough on people making mental errors during the season, on Garrett Cole not covering first yesterday, and on Aaron Judge dropping a fly ball. Like, it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy that Aaron Boone being like, hey, that's unacceptable. Now stop that, is going to stop these careless errors on the field. I don't know what role a coach plays here, but I'm going to go ahead and blame. I think Rizzo is right at the top because of the ripple effects. Aaron Judge deserves blame. I'm very sorry. Forgotten moment in yesterday's game 2 when it's 5-0 in the bottom of the 4th. First and second for Judge, and he tattoos a baseball, and you think for 1 second it's going to be 8-0, and then they pan over to left field, and it's kind of just fallen like 15 feet short. Doesn't really get that close, but there was at least a heart flutter where I was like, oh my God, it's 8-0. It's as easy. They're rolling, and they were not rolling. Judge, of course, makes the spectacular play in left center on Freeman, and then botches the easiest play he will ever receive for his first error of the season. I'm not saying trade Judge. I'm not saying send him to San Francisco. His legacy is cooked, but his legacy certainly is tarnished a little bit, and I'm going to blame him not just for the performance and how long it took to get himself in gear for the World Series, but for his influence that he wields on the front office that brought us Anthony Rizzo and Alex Verdugo and stopped us from giving Jason Dominguez a try earlier in the season, and continually seems like he has the emphasis on the wrong elements of winning baseball. Again, Power mattered in this series. Aaron Judge hits 50 home runs every year. And somehow he was like, we got to get more contact oriented. And I get it. And guys like Tommy Edman help, and they matter. But you're sacrificing. They didn't have a first base home run from July to the end of the season. And that home run was DJ LeMahieu in Philadelphia. I've never seen a crazier stat in my life. But that's what happens when you have a rookie in Ben Rice struggling through the position and Oswaldo Cabrera picking up for Rizzo, and Rizzo himself coming back, and then Rizzo breaking his hand and Rizzo playing through the postseason with a fracture. I mean, I think Judge, if he's going to wield this outsized influence, I'm sorry, you have to go in there this offseason and say, this was unacceptable. We got close. We proved that we had the mettle to get through some tough AL Central teams, but this wasn't good enough. So we're green lighting whatever it takes to bring Juan Soto back. And we're also signing Pete Alonso. Or we're also signing Christian Walker. Or we're also signing Walker Buehler, who's available. Like, Aaron Judge has to, I'm sorry, be that guy. And if the Dodgers taught us anything this year, it's that you have to overkill, because by the end of the year, your super team is going to be gone. Yamamoto threw 100 innings this year. Shohei Ohtani was fantastic, but he hurt his shoulder and wasn't really himself in this World Series. Glasnow was gone. Teoscar Hernandez was great. But they didn't need Jack Flaherty, and they go out and get Jack Flaherty. They didn't necessarily need Edman, and they go out and get Edman. They get Kopech. They don't stop signing people. The real super team was the depth the Dodgers signed along the way, so that by the end of the year, when they needed all these B-plus guys to step up, they got exactly what they needed, because they weren't relying on Landon Knack to win the World Series, which is what the Yankees would have had. When they were like, Mark Leiter Jr., really hope you... Oh, my God, he did it again. And shout out to Mark Leiter Jr., who doesn't even get blamed. Good job by him. But the Yankees were crossing their fingers, and this World Series taught me it's hard to get through a World Series with a team that you love and trust, because winning the World Series is hard. It's impossible mentally to get through a World Series with a roster full of guys where you're just holding on for dear life, where you don't want to see any of them. When somebody comes in and you go, oh my God, no, over and over again. And that's what we got. So got to blame Rizzo, got to blame Judge.
And look at Judge again. Homers yesterday, lose every opportunity that I don't know why it's happening. Yep. It's just what's happening now.
You got to blame Boone. But for me, he falls behind the two chief offenders on the player side, which is, and again, if you ask me right now, do you want him gone? Yes, I do, but I understand why he's back. He just led this. We're writing puff pieces about what a tight-knit clubhouse this was a week ago, and I think it is a tight-knit clubhouse, and I don't think any man in that clubhouse was like, man, I hope no one hits a fly ball to me in center field because I have no fucking idea what to do with it thanks to Aaron Boone. No, it's just another classic collapse. I lay blame on the players who could not execute, but if I have to blame a coach, I'm going to add Luis Rojas to that mix. The send on Giancarlo Stanton was as mind-numbing as anything I've seen from this team. The sends all year were brainless.
Yeah, really.
He is supposedly like the fielding coordinator and like the consigliere on the bench who helps with positioning and the second manager even more than Brad Ausmus or whatever. Hey, if he's your field general, then he's bad at that. So there was some chatter this week about how he's hoping for another managerial gig. Yeah, I'm hoping for it too. Go take one. Miami Marlins are looking for somebody. Craig Albornaz just backed out, right? Go to one of these moribund franchises and go lead them as manager. Because for my money, I don't want to get rid of the hitting coach. That's a silly scapegoat. Again, they hit the same as the Dodgers did in the World Series. I want to see improvement from the players. I want to see a more conscious approach in the moment. But hey, if we're going to dismiss someone from the coaching staff for sloppiness, can it be the guy tasked with eliminating sloppy fielding, as well as we saw direct sloppiness in his sends at third base all series? That is the change that I would make. So I say that is your sacrificial lamb from this year's coaching staff.
Yeah. But again, how much more turnover can the coaching staff get under Aaron Boone's tenure? And we're not going to blame the root of the problem. Aaron Boone gets the most blame for me for two reasons, and it's not because I'm beating a dead horse. It's because the game one moves completely changed the outlook and the way that this series should have unfolded, in my opinion. And then last night, I think, was perhaps a little bit more overlooked than people realize. There was no mound visit during Garrett Cole's 20-minute top of the fifth. 20 minutes he was on the mound. For 20 minutes, the Yankees melted down with errors, with lack of execution on a couple of pitches, with whatever you want to call it, with the bad umpiring. The umpire was squeezing him on left and right, and it was for both sides, so I'm not saying the umps had anything to do with this game. To not give Garrett Cole a breather before Teoscar Hernandez was coming to the plate, before Freddie Freeman was coming to the plate, is absolutely insane. And that's on the manager. That's who makes the call to say, hey, we're going out for a mound visit. Hey, I never agreed with a pitching change at that point, so I'm glad Boone was steadfast in that regard. But to not slow down the game for Cole or to not give him a second because he was firing fucking bullets. What did he throw? 30-something pitches that inning, battling left and right. He should have been at 12 to 15 pitches max. But the way that inning had unfolded, again, it's just no awareness of the moment. Zero awareness of the moment. All you have to do is manage the situation and say, oh, fuck, like 2 errors, 1 error. Okay, that's bad. Second error. Okay. All right. Third error. What the fuck's going on? Figure it out. Instead, you're just sitting there from the dugout, watching everything unfold, watching the collapse happen in front of your face and not doing anything about it. And look, maybe a mound visit wouldn't have done anything, but there's no way to go back and look at that. The conventional wisdom there is like, oh, okay, we need a break. The guy needs a breather. He cannot continue to face the best hitters in this lineup without some sort of reprieve, and he didn't get that. And then, you want to talk about the lineup changes too, or lack thereof, I should say. I don't know what else you do with this lineup. This lineup was flawed, and that's why Brian Cashman is second in command here to take the blame. The trade deadline was terrible. We all know that. The reliance on certain players and look, I love Luke Weaver, but Luke Weaver, who was a bargain bin signing, is not the back end bullpen arm of the future.
There was no swing and miss in the bullpen all year long.
Yeah.
All year long. And then we get to October, the most important inning of the year yesterday, again, down 3-1 in the series. And I can't believe we're talking about this game as if it was some golden missed opportunity, but that's how fucking bad the loss was. You have to go to Tommy Kahnle spamming changeups. The Dodgers are too good for that.
Yeah.
And Kike rip, Edman single in the hole, and then probably the worst executed walk you'll ever see to Will Smith, who's not bunting in that scenario and is a double play candidate, and you don't give him anything even close. I mean,
crazy.
Love Tommy Kahnle. Seriously.
Yeah, me too.
Personality through the roof. That save in Game 4 in Cleveland, shout out, balls of steel. He was a different pitcher in 2017 than he is now, but you get to the end of the year and you're up 6-5. You have 2 more innings to get through to send this series to LA. And who do you have the Dodgers have endless guys throwing 100 coming out of the pen.
Yep.
Trinan, Gratterall, who wasn't even good yesterday. And the Yankees are like, here, Tommy Kahnle's 87-mile-an-hour changeups. You've already seen them 10 times. He's going to do it again. Oops. Yeah. For my next trick, I'll go into the fucking offseason because I don't have any swing and miss.
Yeah. And I mean, look, that Cashman and Boone, I don't know who is to blame. So for me, they're tied for first because you look at everything in totality, right? No swing and miss in the bullpen, shaky bullpen management. So those two come together. The organization or Aaron Boone telling the world that Clay Holmes is the best closer in the game while we're watching him fall apart before our very eyes. That's another big one. You have Verdugo being entrenched in a starting role for as long as he was, and there was absolutely no reprieve or change there. You have the lying to us about Jason Dominguez and how there's no lane for him in the big league level. Then you bring him up a week later. Then he starts taking reps from people. You have the insistence on playing Anthony Rizzo despite him being bad since last May because of an injury. Then he breaks his forearm. Then you clear the path for him to do whatever he wants in this lineup when he's back. The not rewarding good play, Oswaldo Cabrera again. I don't know if he should have been starting, but he definitely deserved more reps. Don't know in what capacity that was, but the manager's job is to figure it out. The GM's job is to overrule the manager there. None of that happened. The leaving Austin Wells in the cleanup spot for a month and a half while he was getting worse and worse. And essentially you're killing his development because he's a catcher, which is the hardest position to play on the field especially as a young player. And then he has further burden placed on him being asked to hit behind Aaron Judge in the lineup, which is crazy. And then you watch him go 8 for 80 something and then are like, okay, yeah, he's no longer our cleanup hitter. We got it wrong. No, it was fucking wrong when he was 4 for 55. So you let it happen for another few weeks and the situation got worse and worse. The playing DJ LeMahieu for as long as they played DJ LeMahieu. I know that they finally made the decision to keep him off the postseason roster, but again, that cost the team wins in a vacuum. The not going and getting out another pitcher at the trade deadline, whether it was a starter or a reliever, all the while when you knew Clark Schmidt was going to be out that long, you knew at some point Luis Gil was going to need a phantom IL stint. He ended up needing a real one. You knew that it was, and this is not being mean, it was too good to be true to have Nestor Cortez and Carlos Rodon pitch the way that they were pitching for the entirety of the season when they had those good stretches. And they just relied on that. They said, oh, they'll pitch at their best when we need them to. No, they won't. And one of them will be injured because that's what always happens as well. And again, bargain bin, the funniest aspect of all this is that the bullpen was probably the best part of the roster and had no business being that. Yep. No business being that. But for me, it's Cashman and Boone, a top for the tie. I know the execution's on the players, but there's also a really big disconnect in putting those players in the best position to succeed. And again, I know everybody's working hard. That's a dumb thing to say, but I know everybody's working hard. Brian Cashman went out and got Juan Soto this offseason. Got him. A number of other teams could have got him. Brian Cashman got him. And I know we are very critical of Cashman's moves, and I think that's totally valid, and I think we should still be critical of Cashman's moves, but he gave Aaron Boone the best assembly of players that he possibly could have, notwithstanding maybe 1 or 2 extra additions, and Aaron Boone continued to do less with more. So it's the worst tag team of all time. If this was a tag team in the WWE, it would be like, Spike Dudley and Wee Man just getting completely beaten down over and over again by the Hardy Boys or
Braun Strowman and Dr. Ruth.
But it's that feels like the largest disconnect with this organization. And I think that's where a lot of the problems stem from. Because look, remember, these guys are playing 162 games. So yes, the players get blamed naturally because they are the ones on the field producing, but the manager and the general manager need to better understand the grind of a 162 game season and then the grind of an additional month of making a World Series run and the depth that's needed for that. And we can go through, we'll have a separate podcast episode on every player the Dodgers got that the Yankees were in on. It's literally the Yankees are over. And every player that the Dodgers got over the Yankees contributed in a massive way in this World Series that completely tilted the scales, even removing Aaron Boone's missteps, even removing Aaron Judge disappearing for 4 games, so on and so forth. So, that's where it is for me. And now we have the offseason reality of there being turnover, guys not coming back, and there's plenty of guys hitting free agency. There's plenty of guys that they're probably going to need to trade or switch roles with. I don't even know what it entirely looks like at this point. I haven't really dove in, but there are some obvious candidates here, and it's going to be a different roster in 2025.
I mean, I'm excited for the turnover just because, you always say that when you leave a season with a really bad taste in your mouth. And I am objectively proud that they made the World Series. You cannot take that away. That is a pennant that will fly forever. That said, they're coming to a fork in the road here, and often you get to the end of these seasons where they end in crushing disappointment, and you're like, but what are they even going to be able to do? They have the whole lineup is filled. That is not the case for next season. Jason Dominguez is going to have a larger role. He deserves one. He should. Alex Verdugo will not be coming back, I hope, unless he's willing to play the Trent Grisham role, which I wouldn't be. That was really depressing for Trent Grisham, who also shouldn't be back. He should be non-tendered. Not Trent Grisham.
On this roster, again, another roster decision. You carried someone who was never going to do something for you.
Trent Grisham, Marcus Stroman. no participation in the postseason. I don't know if Stroman's going to be back next year. And this is even coming from someone who's like, thank you for your contributions, Marcus Stroman. He provided value to this roster with what he did in April, May, and June. Those starts matter. He wasn't able to maintain it for a large part down the stretch, but good job, Marcus Stroman, and the output that you brought us. But yeah, if you're not used even one iota in the World Series, I mean, I don't know if they're willing to keep that level of. I don't know who's going to take him off the roster, but there are already rumors floating around about Nestor Cortez, his future here. Josh Naylor is a trade candidate you're going to hear a lot about. Wink, wink. Because Cleveland is trying to maybe get off of a guy whose salary is escalating. I believe he has just 1 year before free agency.
And play is declining, right?
And play, declined year over year, but this was also his first All-Star appearance. So,
okay, cool.
His best season was 2023, but 27 years old, 31 homers, had a 776 OPS last year. I would take that on the New York Yankees. You got to look at Vinny Pasquantino. I don't think the Royals trade him. That makes no sense. But Nestor Cortez being gone is someone you're going to have to monitor, even though he is not a free agent. Gleyber Torres, I think, has earned the qualifying offer.
Yeah.
But I don't think he'll be back because I don't think he's accepting that. We'll see. I've gone from stunned if he's back to I wouldn't be absolutely shocked if Gleyber Torres ends up back on this team. But he went like 3 for 21 in the World Series after all.
Yeah, he did not have a good World Series.
After all that great baseball. I mean, for me, he's not on next year's team, but I do think they extend him the qualifying offer and maybe he accepts a 1-year deal. Canely, gone. Rizzo, I don't think he's back. There was a time when I did. That's
really?
No
okay.
Longer. It's a $6 million payout to void that, time spent.
I could just see them saying, why pay $6 million when we could just pay $17 million?
I know. And if they do bring him back, next year's the last year, but we'll just keep kicking this can down the line. But Clay Holmes gone. Juan Soto after last night, you really can't glean anything from what Juan Soto said in the postgame. But if you were looking for an indication that he was going to be deferential to the Yankees, you didn't get it. He's absolutely. There was a time, probably the only thing I'll say that's changed my opinion of Juan Soto is like August, September, and during the World Series run. I was like, the Yankees just need to get within like $50 million of the Mets, and then they're going to bring him back. And after last night, he was so good at the free agency smooth talk and just basically doing the I'm open to anybody who wants to talk to me, and it was great here and I had a great time, and now we're talking to everybody. He was so good at executing that message that I no longer think that 50 million is close. Like 10 million, 15 million. I think the Yankees could overcome a very slight gap, but large gap. But before, I thought you offer him a giant contract, it's really impressive, but it's 50 million less than the Mets, and he'll come. The Mets go 750 million and the Yankees go 660 even. I would say that's still enough. That sets the precedent. I think he'll stay home. I no longer think that. I think if a team just blows the Yankees offer out of the water, he'll go there. And I don't think the Dodgers will, and I think the Mets might. So at this point, I would have said like 65-35 Yankees before last night, and now I'm like 60-40 Mets. We'll see. It's just a matter of what they do with Juan Soto's money if he doesn't come back. And also typically at the end of these runs, when someone's entering free agency and the Yankees are coming off an awful loss, I'm spiteful. And I'm like, F you, go get your money. Like, well, whatever. We lost with you. We'll lose without you. Whatever. Get out of here. I'm so glad I found out you were unclutched before we let you go. And I don't feel that way about Juan Soto at all. He delivered on everything. Yeah. He was so good. So can they survive without him? I mean, they'll be worse. Can they backfill him? Sure. I think they could make an interesting team without Juan Soto next year, but no hard feelings. No, Juan Soto exposed conversations. He was fucking awesome, and they could use him back long term, and that would really, they could set themselves up as the team to beat in the American League the next couple of years with him. Without him, I don't know. Orioles did their thing. Guardians are going to be pesky. Rays are never going away. Royals, I don't think.
Without him,
that season.
Without him, it's maybe not a playoff team.
I mean, the Boston Red Sox are going to be good next year. They were almost kind of good this year. They're not a bad team. There are plenty of talented teams.
They have players.
We would be on equal footing with a bunch of talented teams if Juan Soto wasn't here, and they might not be a playoff team.
Yeah, and if you're on, and you know that if the Yankees are on equal footing with talented teams, that's when they don't take the next step. Like
I mean, you
they
know
were just
what?
on
What's
equal
not going to
footing
work?
with a talented team.
You know what's not going to work is like Jazz Chisholm being your second ranked star next year on the promo materials. That's not going to work.
No. And look, for as much as I love Giancarlo Stanton, he's not really a regular season like threat. So having him for October is amazing. You got to get to October. I think that's where he's always going to be more valuable. I know in the past we've kind of been like, oh, you know what? He only had 2 good postseasons. Like, let's see more. We've seen more, so now we don't have to question whether that's like his truest value. At this point, it is his truest value. But you look at his last few regular seasons, they are not anywhere near what a middle of the order slugger at his price needs to be doing for you. And the alternatives are bleak unless you're talking, Alex Bregman, which I don't know if they'll do. Maybe that's where the Soto money goes if they don't re-sign, because then you just shift Jazz over to second, you say goodbye to Gleyber Torres, and you rebuild the bullpen and maybe sign another starter.
Yeah, Bregman's the guy over Alonso to me. Like,
If we sign Pete Alonso, I'm out.
I need power. And Bregman has it. And I don't need another 40 homer, 210 strikeout guy.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. It's everything that was wrong with the Yankees 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, the starting staff needs a bit of a revamp because you can't just predicate your success on Carlos Rodon being your bona fide number 2. It's not going to work. One good postseason start, which again gets credit, but it was against the middle of the order offense that struck out a ton. So yeah, this is why we place the importance on this season to win, because there were too many extenuating circumstances after the 2024 campaign ended that created a lot of questions and would force the Yankees into more roster gymnastics and roster filling. And I don't necessarily think we trust them to do it. We trusted them to do it this offseason because Juan Soto was right there. The Padres were in a precarious situation. The Yankees were one of few teams that had the prospects that the Padres wanted, that they could go toe-to-toe with even the heaviest suitors, and they ended up having the better package. So I think that was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and that's why the emphasis on to go for the jugular at the trade deadline when you knew where your roster stood. The Yankees opted to not do that. I understand Jazz Chisholm was kind of an impact acquisition, but again, you look at his stats, league average hitter, played a very good third base, again, amazing, but not a third baseman. So you went out and you got somebody, you got lucky. You got lucky because Jazz Chisholm is that athletic, and he gets all the props in the world for holding down the hot corner during that playoff run, but another imperfect fit. You have Judge in center field throughout this postseason. He's not a center fielder. You have Alex Verdugo playing to Joey Gallo levels in left field, not good. You have Anthony Volpe. He had his moment in the World Series, which was amazing, and he put forth a lot of good at-bats in the CS, but 80-something OPS plus. Gleyber Torres was bad until mid-August, and then he caught fire. They have no first baseman. So, I understand this sounds crazy to even discuss, but this is a very incomplete team, even with Juan Soto in the picture, because of all of the plates you have to balance when it shouldn't be this hard. It should be easier to field a baseball team, and the Yankees somehow make it more difficult with each passing year.
Jonah Hill at the We Sell Your Stuff on eBay store over and over again. It's the enduring legacy of the Yankees. So I want this World Series. So I give you this money and you give me these superstar free agents. Oh, I wish it were that simple. It could be, but you're making it extremely complicated every single year. And it's going to get really complicated because with or without Juan Soto, you are filling a left field hole. You're filling a second base hole, probably with Jazz Chisholm, and then maybe Caleb Durbin plays third. Maybe Alex Bregman plays third. I don't think going into the season with just rookie, like Ben Rice at first. I love it. I love these guys. Hey, these guys are great. I don't think that's the recipe for, could you imagine, even in your wildest dreams, It's a rematch. The rematch the Yankees have been waiting for against the Dodgers in the 2025 World Series. And they did it with Ben Rice and Caleb Durbin and Jason Dominguez and Carlos Narvaez in starting roles. Like, just, I mean, not even in a different universe that's close to this one. Like, not even in one of the universes I can feel when I turn the lights out and the ghosts are in my house. Like, that just does not sound possible. So you're going to have to bring in veteran experience. You're going to have to bring in mashers, lefties, start bona fide starting pitching. And it can't be another, like, I'm shocked the Yankees didn't trade for Griffin Canning today when the Braves just traded Jorge Soler for him. Like, they love just collecting, like, former top prospect 5 starters, and maybe we unlock it and maybe we don't. Like, it can't be that. It can't be Jameson Taillon, who was even a good Yankee. No shade to Jameson Taillon. But you're going to bring in someone, I better be able to close my eyes and see them starting game 2 or 3 of a World Series instead of just being like, well, Luis Gil's in this game. He was fantastic in May and then was injured for a while and then hasn't been good in 4 months. Yeah, once we got home and it was Clark Schmidt and Luis Gil, you start to have a what are we doing moment. And what are we doing?
No, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I do know, but the future, this is why everyone's concerned, because the future is feeling very bleak if Juan Soto is going to go to the highest bidder, because we know it's not going to be the Yankees. They have so many other contract issues to sort out. You know, you're stuck with Rodon's $27 million AAV. You're stuck with DJ for $15 million a year for the next couple of years. Again, for as good as Stanton is, you're still stuck with that deal for another 3-4 years. And the payroll's clogged. And I don't know where. And look, Garrett Cole opts out. You're adding another $36 million to the end of his deal. So yeah, we'll be here talking about all of it as the offseason progresses, but you're talking about a World Series loss in historic fashion, essentially giving it away to a better opponent, which Dodgers were better. They were, but the Yankees made them look a lot better than they needed to. Could have been a fun series. It really could have been a fun 7-game series. And if the Yankees could just lose normally, I would have been able to take a gutting Game 7 loss in LA, but they don't lose normally. They lose in new historic ways that, again, going back to 2004, it's like their identity really was just ripped away, completely ripped away. And I hate to even give the Red Sox any credit, but this team has done nothing but choke outside of the 2009 World Series, which is one that they had to win because they spent $500 million to get the few players that they needed to get them over there. They needed a blackout offseason from Alex Rodriguez to beat, again, inferior playoff teams, Twins and Angels. And then you beat the Phillies, who are the reigning champs. So that was big, and that definitely merits recognition in history. But like, without that World Series, without spending $500 million, without getting a magical run from A-Rod, we're talking about a 25-plus year World Series drought at this point. And countless playoff chokes that, like, other fans will say, oh, well, you're lucky to be in the playoffs every year, so, like, deal with that. It's like, no, I'm not if they choke every time. Am I lucky if they keep making it and then they keep embarrassing me? Like, I'm not asking for them to win every single time, but, like, lose a regular game. One regular game. Don't have a historic collapse left and right. Don't continue to lose to the Red Sox and the Astros over and over again. Don't talk shit, not be able to back it up, and then look even worse than you did heading into the series. And that's been the story of the last 25 years. And it's unfathomable for other fans to grasp, because they will still look at, oh, well, you had 96 to 2001, so, like, you're good. No, not really. Not really.
Well, again, you won some World Series when you were age 6 and age 10. Like, that's part of the problem, because I fell in love with this franchise and this team when I was young and impressionable. And I'm so glad they won all those World Series when I was a child. But we are in the exact generation where they won 4 World Championships when I was in elementary school. Then they won another one when I was in college. And thank God they did. But then after that, my entire adult life, they have been the big, bloated, big money punching bag of the rest of the league. how many of their rivals have moments where they get to wear the crown and brag? Boston, Tampa, Houston, over and over again. Toronto, not so much. Hilarious. Maybe someday. But all that I've seen as an adult is the Yankees getting battered in the playoffs by better teams and losing the World Series to a more complete team. And the feather in the embarrassment cap was last night. And so now the rest of the world gets to laugh at them again because a lot of people picked the Yankees to win the World Series because I think they looked at the rosters, but they hadn't watched the team. And if you watched the team, you knew there was a good chance this was coming. Mm-hmm. And you were just hoping, if you were a fan of the team, that it didn't rear its ugly head. And then overpoweringly so, it did, like to the maximum. So you got to tighten it up like 30% this offseason. You got to fill these roster holes. You have to enter next year with a defined plan. You cannot rest on your laurels. Aaron Boone coming back is a bad start, but we'll see. It's not the
worst possible start.
Not the ending. And thank you, everyone, for riding with us. And if you're a hater, if you're a Dodgers fan, I mean, that's fine. Thank you for coming. Dodger fans can gloat today. You can. Just don't throw any baseballs at me from this time. But good win, good championship. Obviously not easy. People are going to tell you it's easy. They are wrong. Yeah. That was a really difficult year for the Dodgers. And they, it's probably the start of a dynasty for them with Ohtani pitching next year, Tyler Glass now back. Pretty hard to see anybody dethroning the Los Angeles Dodgers, but hopefully it's us who gets a chance to do that, and hopefully we come in stronger with more momentum next year. Either way, we'll be right back to talk Monday, 2:00 Eastern, and we'll be here all offseason long with so much offseason content. It's the best time of the year, and for this particular Yankees team in this particular spot, there's going to be so much offseason speculation to sort through. They're going to be making moves. They are certainly not going to be doing nothing. Because they're going to be, at the very least, losing a bunch of core players to different teams. So we're going to have to talk about where those guys go. But they're going to have to replace them, perhaps with top prospects, perhaps with options that you find underwhelming. Perhaps they pull off a genuine shocker. Maybe Josh Naylor's in pinstripes, rocking the baby with Giancarlo Stanton in a champagne celebration next year. I just don't know, and that's the best part. We will know before spring training. We've got so many months ahead of us. Thanks for riding with us. And I am Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. But I should probably stop saying that because so many people found me on Twitter last night that it made me lose my fucking mind. So actually stop finding me on Twitter. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
Come on down, folks, at Tommy's_takes. Appreciate you guys tuning in, as always. Appreciate you guys reading. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. We'll be with you here all off season long. We are not retreating into our holes after this World Series loss as much as we would like to. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and keep it going. I know it sucks, and I know it's an awful feeling, and I know this team has let you down so many times, especially if you're a younger fan, man. This generation of Yankee fans over the last 15, 20 years has had it fairly rough outside of that one win. Because, again, they probably saw that 2009 win as a kid, and then they were expecting more, and then they got less and less and less and less. But the offseason is the most fun part. You get to link all the trade speculation. You get to dream of a new roster and new beginnings when 2025 comes around. We'll have a week to rest here and fully reflect on everything, but we appreciate you guys being here with us. And thanks again. 2024 is in the books, folks.
Sure is, but not for us. We will be right back on Monday. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Seriously, genuinely. Unless you hate our guts, in which case, you suck. All right, take care.